There are many types of cheats in the world of Tekken. There are cheats where you can auto duck under highs. There are cheats where you can make your opponent's game lag and so they drop their combos. But the cheat we are looking at today is the hardest cheat of them all to detect, and that would be the auto low block. The reason this cheat in particular is hard to detect is because not only can they toggle it on and off during matches, but also to the naked eye, it looks like they are just really good at predicting your lows. So how do you detect if someone has an auto low block cheat? Now, one of the main things we're looking for is them frame perfectly ducking a low. This means they aren't holding down back before the low, and they aren't holding it sometime after the animation starts. They are blocking the exact frame where a low starts to come out. Now that we got that definition out of the way, let's get into some of the replays, which I think will prove that this player has the auto low block cheat. Quick disclaimer, I do not want the person involved in this video to receive hate. This is purely educational to show you how this cheat works and how to catch someone using it. Now, this first replay we're going to check out is going to be this ranked game against a law player. When you're playing casual matches, you're not as likely to be using cheats, so I want to stick to the ranked matches where it actually matters whether you're going to win or not. Now, a bit of back and forth happens in this round, but overall this law player has not thrown out a single low yet until right about now. What I want to point out, and you can see the Miyari's inputs are on the right side, the exact frame that the low comes out and Miyari is able to stand up, they're able to block the low. Something else I want to point out is as soon as they're done blocking the low, they are already holding back again. We have the second low that's his law through. And I'm going to try to pause here at the perfect moment. The Miyari is already holding down back as soon as the law starts the animation of the low. Something I want to point out right here too that I think is interesting is they threw out something -13 and they're holding back after. But then again, as soon as the low starts, they're holding down back. I also want to point out here that they do the same flowchart where they go for their launch, -13. And this time they make no attempt to duck. Also want to show that they do it twice in a row. Still no down back input. But here we have 3 for 3 with the low blocks. And again, as soon as the law player starts the animation, they're already ducking. So throughout this set, they haven't made any real attempt to duck, except for, coincidentally, every time the law player throws out a low. And again, something very interesting is they throw out something punishable, -13, they're holding back, and then the exact frame where this law starts to throw out a low, again they're holding down back. They start ducking the exact frame the low comes out, and then the exact frame that the low is done, and they've blocked it, they're already holding back again. Now you can see them miss a punish on the low right here. I believe this law player goes for another low, but since this is a counter hit, this one doesn't count. The reason for that is there's no way to block a low if you're already in an animation. Now again, we see them holding back. And the exact frame law starts throwing out a low, they are already holding down back. And then as soon as the low is done hitting them, they're holding back again. One of the most obvious rounds that's telling of them using low block scripts is this round in ranked against the Azucena. Right here off the bat, we have a frame perfect crouch. But something a little bit more interesting happens here in a second. This Azucena throws out a launch, and during the combo, Azucena throws out lows. And you can see as she uses the lows during her combo, the low script is trying to activate and it's trying to duck the lows, despite the fact that he's in the middle of a combo. So I think that's one of the most obvious signs that they're using some sort of script is they're trying to block lows even though they're in the middle of the combo. And so already this round we have 2 for 2 on the lows. And we also had 2 perfect blocks during the combo that the Azucena did. Right here, you can see even though he's not turned around and able to duck the low, he still makes an attempt. As you can look at his input right there, he's trying to duck. And pretty much every single low this round gets blocked pretty perfectly. And so the fact that he's not only blocking every single low this round, but he's also trying to block the lows during a combo, I think this round is really one of the bigger ones to pay attention to. And again, even though every single low doesn't get blocked, you can look at his input and see there is an attempt for the script to override whatever manual inputs he's doing. There's still a portion where I can't tell whether the script is set to a percentage, where it's set to like block 80% of lows, not every low, so it's not obvious. But most of the time, he is effectively blocking every single low his opponent throws out. And again, we just have more and more times where perfectly blocking every single low thrown out, whether or not he gets the punish. No lows can get by him, and then the occasion that one does get by him, there's usually either an attempt to duck it and it doesn't go through, or there's just no attempt to do anything about it at all. Very, very rarely. Like right there. Even though he's not at the right angle, he's not able to duck in time, there's still an attempt to press the down back right there and duck the low. Just going to quickly finish off this set here. Show that still every low is getting blocked, no matter what. No other attempts to duck are really made, other than the exact frame a low is being thrown out by his opponent. And we have some situations like this where he's getting counter hit. But you can see here as well, there is a down back input that sneaks in right here. It's just hidden by the fact that he tried to press forward 1+2 at the same time that he got hit by the low. That's why despite having a low block script, he might not block 100% of the lows either because he's pressing a different input. I talked with some people that have more experience catching these sort of cheaters, and they said there's also a mode that they can turn on to set it to a percentage, like 80%, 90%, block that amount of lows, and occasionally one won't get blocked. So it's not as obvious that they're using a cheat. I want to point out the fact that this match is against Did I Do That, which is a fellow streamer, both on TikTok and Twitch, I believe. And I believe Silent knows of them and knows that they are a streamer because they're both in the TikTok community. Now, something I want to point out right away is the very first low Did I Do That throws out. Again, we have a frame perfect block. And then suddenly, this Miari player goes completely AFK, just laying there. What I think happens here is that they realize, okay, I'm against the streamer. I don't want my script to be exposed right away. So right now, as they lay there taking a nap mid-match, they are turning off the script. Because now, suddenly, this first match here, they don't block any lows except for the exception of one here at the end. And then moving on to the match after this, where they finish their set, suddenly, once again, they are just blocking every single low. And you can see every time it's that frame perfect input, every time after the low, they press back again. Even on the lows where they didn't block, there was still always an attempt to duck and block it. And it's always the exact same timing of the frame where the animation starts. I even have examples of them blocking things like June's Can, where they're mashing a button like 1-1, but because the animation of Can starts and it starts with a low, they're also holding down back in the middle of pressing a string. I have really weird inputs like this where they're doing a low string where they keep pressing back and down back, and it just looks really clunky and weird. I kind of overdid it a little bit because I have like an hour of footage total of them frame perfect blocking lows. And whether it's some rounds they didn't block at all, and then suddenly the next round it's back to the frame perfect inputs, or it's complete matches where they blocked every single low possible, I want to showcase this final set between himself and Joe Budden. Now, one of the final sets I want to showcase is not a ranked set. It was one ranked match, between Silent and Joe Budden, where Silent ended up winning, and he was blocking 90% of those lows frame perfect, and I don't think Joe Budden realized. But Joe Budden, being the individual that he is, wanted to run a beef set. And I believe there was money on the line. This set came down to the wire. It was 4-4. And I want to showcase this last round here. I want to see if there's any inputs in this last round that Silent is able to block perfectly. Now, so far, no low blocked. There is an attempt right here as Silent pops heat. Despite being in the middle of popping heat, there is a down back input that comes out. An attempt there to block the low. And I want to showcase this right here. Joe Budden goes for the 10 hit. Probably the rarest 10 hit of all time. No one has ever seen this animation. And yet, he perfectly blocks the low on the 10 hit. Not even the best players in the world are going to ever be familiar with this string to know to duck right here. Maybe like 1% of all professional players would even know to duck that. And somehow, despite holding back this entire time, the frame that the low comes out, he ducks. And he's able to also execute the perfect punish for the 10 hit string. Now, obviously, he could have ducked right there just off intuition. But I think with all the other evidence we've seen leading towards him having a low block script, I think that did come into play and had him win this beef set against Joe Budden. At the end of the day, like I said, I don't want any hate or harassment to go to this player's way. I am just showcasing how sneaky and hard to detect this type of cheat is that he uses. I hope the fact that I'm making this kind of video discourages future players from wanting to use cheats. No matter how sneaky and secret your cheat is, I do believe eventually you will get caught. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope this is a little bit more educational for you. If you ever think you run into a cheater, but you see them ducking lows and it's not frame perfect or anything like that, you can assume that they're not a cheater. But if you do see these same signs against someone you fought, they might as well be a cheater. Now, if you guys have any other people you've ran into, you want me to watch their clips, their replays, try to find out if they're a cheater, let me know. Drop their Tekken ID or DM me their account. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and until next time, you guys take care.